Louis V here from Vinyl Latte, and today we are thrilled to have a special guest with us, Chan Kinchla, better known as Chan, the dynamic guitarist for Blues Traveler, and Chan has been captivating audiences for decades with his electrifying performances and signature sound. Now, he's stepping into a new role as the frontman of W4RHORS3, bringing us their debut album and the horse they rode in on. Join us as we dive into this exciting new chapter of his musical journey, explore the inspirations behind the album, and discover what makes this project so unique. Welcome, Chan. Thank you for joining us today. Let's dive right in. This is the debut album from W4RHORS3. Can you start by introducing the band and giving us a sense of what listeners can expect from And the Horse They Rode In On?
Right on, Louis. Thanks for having me. W4RHORS3, spelled W4RHORS3, is a kind of a loose confederation of great musicians here in Los Angeles. All great touring musicians. Paul Ill on bass, Wally Ingram on drums and percussion. It's our secret weapon. Makes it funky. And Maxwell Butler, Bang Bang Maxwell Butler. I'm trying to get him to change his name so he has that nickname, Bang Bang Maxwell Butler. On keys, and myself. And we all do playing guitar and singing, though we all do a little bit of singing. It struck us, we're all like veteran tour musicians, me with Blues Traveler, them with a myriad of other acts. But we have downtime. You know, I toured Blues Traveler, and I love it. Summers, fall, you know, a little here and there, but there's still probably 6 months a year I'm kicking around here. And I've always enjoyed playing with other people, sitting in with other people. When I was younger, before I had kids, I had a few side projects, High Plains Drifter being one. But as I realized, once my kids had grown up and I needed a hobby, and you know what I thought? I like playing guitar in bands, so I figured maybe I should do that for my hobby. Anyway, we have a lot of free time, and we during the pandemic, we had way too much free time, so we just started hanging out together playing, and we were immediately, they're kind of from the improvisational jam band background, as am I. We were like, this just sounds like a band right off the bat. And that's kind of where it started. It just was a natural evolution from just hanging out, killing time during the pandemic. And, you know, I'd always written a lot of songs for Blues Traveler and even, you know, melody lines and things like that. But I was always handing it over to John, who's just an amazing singer. Of course, he's going to do the singing. And a lot of times I just write cool music and let him kind of come up with the melody lines. But something I'd always wanted to do more of was do a little bit of singing, but more importantly, just write the melody lines. And initially we were going to get a lead singer. But then, you know, as we were working through these songs I was writing and I was doing a little bit of the singing, I found I really enjoyed it. And more importantly, we didn't want to have another lead singer to deal with because lead singers are a pain in the ass. One thing us hardworking touring musicians know is if you can avoid having a lead singer, do it. So I figured I would, that was my first inspiration. Love you, John. And then as a result, I dove in wholeheartedly into the singing. And I found I really loved it. I really loved it. So between me and Paul and Max, everyone's got a pretty good voice. And we really had a blast tackling that side of things. And, you know, I've come to find as I look back, most of my favorite singers are kind of funky, you know, like Joe Strummer from The Clash or David Byrne from the Talking Heads aren't really such pristine, beautiful singers. Not that that's not a great thing as well. But I mean, the most important thing is it's honest, real, and has character. And that was the kind of the beginning of it. And then we realized we know so many great musicians. There's such a great musical vibe here in Los Angeles where we're from. We had a lot of people to kind of play with live. So W4RHORS3 is that core 4 people. And then we have, when we play out live around here, a bunch of different people that come and join us. So it's just a fantastic, fun project, and it's my favorite side hustle.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. The album has been described as a riotous, jammy rock extravaganza. How do you and the bandmates bring together such a diverse range of influences to create a unified sound?
Well, as I said, I mean, all the members are really good musicians. I like to think I'm a pretty solid musician, but most importantly, really experienced. We played with a lot of different people, a lot of improvisation, a lot of being comfortable with that kind of open mentality to playing a song where it doesn't have to be exactly on the beat all the time. There's a little room to move. That being said, as all huge music fans, we have a ton of influences. And when we write songs, whether it's me or Paul Ill, is also a really great songwriter and has some songs on this record, we really don't have any rules. And, the main thing is whoever presents the song, there's a general direction, but we let the players kind of mold their parts. It's not preconceived what the song's going to be. So I think that leaves it open to bringing in lots of cool parts. We don't have any real rules. Our only rule is we want to keep it fun. That's our one rule. If it's not fun, it's not Warhorse. We're not tackling any dark, heavy societal issues in Warhorse. We're rocking out.
That's a good rule to have. Speaking of unique concepts, the album tells the story of Warhorse, which is a green robot navigating through space with music as his guide. What inspired this idea, and how did it influence the direction of your tracks?
Believe it or not, we weren't high when we came up with that. So it's very stoner magic. The story behind where that came from, it kind of found us. But in the end, it was me talking to Paul once. We were talking about Rock'em Sock'em robots. And the red one and the blue one. And Paul's like, I'm the green one. I was like, the green one? He's like, yeah, there's no green one. I'm like the weird robot that didn't get in the game. And I was like, that just cracked me up. And we almost named the band Warhorse the Green Robot, like Cage the Elephant or something along those lines when we were going through band names. But everyone thought that was a horrible band name, so we just settled with Warhorse. But then we realized that sounded it's kind of like a serial number, and we just kind of extrapolated it from there. But I mean, the whole idea is kind of an outsider look, kind of finding his way to, through music and space and robots. It's kind of futuristic. It's just kind of captured the vibe that we were going for. And, a lot of the keyboard sounds are kind of futuristic, like synthy stuff. And that was kind of what the sound was. So who knows with those things? We like to think the robot found us, and we just kind of took it and ran with it. I think that's part of being creative. It's like as things kind of come up, be open to running with them and see what weird stuff you could come up with. So the robot found us, but that's kind of the backstory where it came from. We had a lot of free time during COVID to come up with this stuff.
You bring up a good point, though, with the tracks. I remember listening to the album, and I noticed that the songs really span a wide spectrum. For instance, Struck by Lightning has this lively synth funk feel. Wind and Rain takes on a singer-songwriter vibe, and Girl on the Mountain channels 70s rock sound. What led you to explore these different styles, and is there a common thread that ties them all together?
Well, it's the common thread is probably it's just rock and roll, but there's rock and roll is such a vast sonic field. I mean, you can go, like I said, Struck by Lightning, which is kind of more funk. And that was just something we wanted to, I wanted, when I wrote that one, I wanted to kind of like a dance tune. So I was like, it was kind of like my going into it. I wanted something upbeat like that. So it's, it starts with one line, that little that I like, and then things go from that. And I love Struck by Lightning. The concept is, Struck by Lightning. It's like where that creativity comes from. Just a little moment. You're messing around, and all of a sudden something cool comes up, and it turns into a whole song. And that's a lot of what creativity is. And it can also be romantic as well, obviously, which is what's cool. It could be a couple things. But so much of creativity is just being open and around to good ideas. And sometimes it takes days and then boom. So that's what I'm waiting to be struck by lightning is kind of about. The singer-songwriter one, I've been writing a lot on acoustic because acoustics, where you really get down to the chord structure and melody, you're not like clouding things up with a lot of jamming and playing, which we're naturally going to do. Once we get a song, we kind of turn it into something a little bigger with a little more improvisational rock feel. So, but you know, I was told long ago, if you can't play a song in acoustic and have it be compelling and interesting, you should probably work on it some more. You can put all the bells and whistles and jams and cool little musical parts on around that, but the core of the song should have a nice chord structure melody. So, I've kind of been messing with my singer-songwriter side, and that's what, Wind and Rain is about. And Paul, he's just a child of the 70s, so he brings that 70s rock mentality. So that's a Paul Hill song. And like I said, we don't really have any preconception of what it's going to sound like. And once we get in the studio, it can kind of go in a different direction too. And that's kind of the process with all the songs. Let it go where it's supposed to go.
Well, Chan, let me ask you on behalf of your current fans and future fans, Girl in a Mountain. I mean, who is she? What is the story behind that song? Do you know, or is it really Paul's song?
It's Paul's song. What's I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, I know vaguely. I don't remember all the specific details, but he told me it's just about an old girl that he was trying to get with, who had all these. You know, she's kind of overly idealistic and kind of set herself apart from the world and put herself above the world. And I guess in the end, it kind of made her lonely. So that was kind of the inspiration for the lyrical content, which I think we all know that person.
I mean, I guess that's true. It's good to hear that was actually written about somebody. I didn't know if it was like an imaginary girl or if it was somebody that was real, but it sounds like it's really written for someone. I guess the question becomes, if she hears it, does she know it's written about her?
I don't know. She's kind of above it all, so maybe she won't pay attention, or maybe she'll just think it's maybe that's the kind of person that might think every song's about them. I don't know.
All right, I know we kind of touched on this, but I do want to dive deep. The album feels like it breaks free from any creative constraints with some unexpected twists and unconventional choices. Was this a conscious direction? Did you want to convey this with any bold decisions? Is it just purely rock and roll?
Well, I mean, at the heart, because we're always open, like a lot of times when we're writing these songs, and some of the songs on the record are there's sections that are very improvisational, and that every time we played it would change a little. One of the main things we did with this record, and it's kind of a Warhorse rule, is we need to play the songs out live a few times before we record them. So we'd rehearse, we get a kind of a rough form, and then we play it out in just little clubs around Los Angeles a few times and see where with some improvisation, some just an open mind and a kind of a loose arrangement, and just see where it took us. So I think a lot of times we'd come up with the cooler kind of found ideas that are like cool bridges or transitions on stage, and that became the song. So that was our process: get a loose arrangement, and it's really the way Blues Traveler used to do their songs. Way back when we started, we would be just playing little bars in New York all the time. And when we wrote a song, we just have we didn't have studio time. We didn't have anything. We just kind of rough out how it went and play it live a bunch of times and then see what it turned into. And that's a really cool way, especially for a band of a lot of players that are pretty good with their instruments to write, I think, is to let the stage kind of craft it. And it's fun. It's a really fun way to do it. So you come up with stuff improvising on stage that if you pre-planned it in a studio trying to make it, you'd never come up with because it's too conscious. Those found things you do when you're improvising with a group on stage are sometimes just fascinating, and you don't even know where they came from.
Great answer, and you get immediate feedback too if it's working or not with the audience. So what a great way to put together.
And you crack up because you're like, where did that come from? That's cool. Well, let's use that.
Yeah, let's include it. Right. Let me get a little bit personal. You've been known for playing guitar in Blues Traveler, but fronting Warhorse seems like a whole different gig. Has this new role changed the way you write and perform music?
Well, everything definitely informs. I think it's made me a lot more of a melodic player. Whereas when I go back to touring with Blues Traveler, because I am thinking so much of melody with the singing, and I've been figuring out so many, writing all these songs where I'm writing the melody lines and singing the melody lines. Of course, as a guitar player for Blues Traveler, I'm focusing on cool guitar parts, riffs, execution, rhythm a lot. When I'm writing and really focusing on the singing so much, the melody really comes to the fore. So I listen to all these great artists like Elliott Smith, who have great melody, or the Shins, and that's informed my solo style with Blues Traveler and Warhorse to play a lot more melodically, which I really enjoy. So that's been a great learning process, and it's cool in my 50s to be tackling new areas of my playing, and that's the great thing about music. It's never-ending discovery. So it's a big change. I really love singing. I love working on things. So it's a process where the more I take lessons and do my exercises and sing in front of people and learn about the whole craft of it, the more I realize how far there is to go. And it's really nice to sink my teeth into really tackling. I messed around with singing before. Now I take it really seriously, and it's a great hobby to be slowly learning how to sing. I'm now to the point where I hear myself and I'm like, you know what? That's not awful. So that's a huge step, because when I started, I thought that more often than not. But the most important part is I'm not shy. I think that's 90% of the battle. Just put yourself out there and make a mess, and you learn each time.
That's great advice. You mentioned that one of the influences is Elliott Smith, but I hear influences from all over the musical map in these tracks. Were there any other specific artists or genres that really had a significant impact on the sound of the album?
Yeah, I think because I play and I'm in kind of with Blues Traveler in the jam band milieu, one of the most important things when we added the keyboards was I didn't want a lot of organ, piano, traditional, old school jam bandy sounds. And so we added a lot of synthy, kind of more modern sounds. So then it was more like Prince or Bernie Worrell, Death Cab for Cutie, just a lot of more modern kind of vibes for the sound of the record. So anything consciously, the rest of it's just kind of as what we come up with. But consciously, that was the direction we wanted to take it. Plus, it fit with Robot better and space travel. So, like I said, we don't overthink these things. But if I'm going to talk about it, maybe I'll stumble on something.
Well, let's pause and talk about your bandmates and about the collaboration for a moment. How did working with Paul, Wally, and Maxwell come about? And I think you touched on it a little bit about finding each other or just bringing those bands together, but was there any specific things that brought them together, and how did their contribution shape the music of the album?
Wally, I've known since Horde days with Blues Traveler. He was the drummer for Sheryl Crow, who opened up for us for a couple of years between Horde and opened up for Blues Traveler back in 94, 93, when Sheryl was coming up and we were coming up. We were on the same label. So me, Bobby, and Wally became good friends. And so me and Wally have always stayed in touch. And he lives right down the road from me here in Los Angeles, in Studio City here. And Paul, I just met around Los Angeles. He's just always such a cool guy. I really just liked him as a person. So strangely, he knows Wally because Wally and Paul are like, they play with everyone. And something I've learned, because I've been kind of in my little blues traveler bubble, but as I've gotten out and about, there's just such a huge community of working musicians in Los Angeles who play with all these different people on all these different records. And they all know each other. And they all know each other. And they're really great with names. And they'll talk about this session, that session. It blows my mind. So it's fun being the new kid around that scene. Anyway, they knew each other separately. And me and Paul talked about playing bass together. And then me and Wally, I was just talking to him during the pandemic at some point. And I was like, let's go jam. I'm dying to jam. And he's right down the road. And then separately, I was talking to Paul about doing it. And then Wally said he'd been talking to Paul and you've been talking to Paul. So why doesn't Paul come over? So it kind of just found itself. And then we played a couple of shows as a 3-piece and a power trio. And I enjoyed the process, but as a singer and guitar player in a power trio, man, that's a lot of work. And, if I was more of a motivated, virtuoso and could sing my ass off, maybe I would have tried it. But especially then, as I was new to the frontman vibes, I was like, I need something out there to help fill out the sound. And that's when Paul knew Max really well. And Max is just a phenomenal musician. So we added him because basically I was too lazy to lead a 3-piece.
But I was just thinking about what you said there, and it sounds like the LA music scene right now is the rock and sound is almost like jazz, where artists are just playing with each other, pick up, and everybody kind of knows who's who in the zoo. Is that sort of the vibe?
Well, for sure. And I think, LA is an industry town in all shapes and forms. And so the music industry, there's all these amazing professionals right here, and we all get to know each other. And I know, as musicians, especially in the jam band world, playing with each other, sitting in with each other, and in the singer-songwriter world as well, which I've kind of delved into a little bit here. Everyone's always, because it's collaborating and connecting is really where cool ideas come from, and everyone kind of helps each other out. It's kind of a rat race in the music business out there. So we got to lean on each other and help each other out to kind of get these projects done. And it all kind of helps. We all help each other. So Los Angeles, for finding amazing, professional, hardcore, really talented people to work with is, as I know from other people in other cities, there's nowhere else like it, where everyone's, open, and everyone's got studios here and recording gear, and there's always some place to play. So, strangely enough, LA's become kind of like the underground side of it is pretty vibrant on the music scene.
Well, thanks for sharing that. With the release approaching on November 16th, 2024, what do you hope listeners will experience when they hear the album for the first time?
Well, I hope they like the message of the songs. It's pretty positive, emotional music, emotional topics. I hope they like the groove. I mean, the idea was just to make something that made people feel good, had some nice ear candy, and some nice kind of catchy melodies. I mean, it was a brand new experience for us, and it was kind of fun because we'd rough out these 3 or 4 songs, play them live, then we go in and record them in one day over at a little studio here and a little studio there. So it kind of came together as we played them, wrote them, and just built on itself. I think initially we weren't necessarily going to make a record. We just wanted to record them, and then we were like, these sound pretty good, and then we tightened them up, and then slowly it took on its own momentum. It's just 4 good friends who love playing music, kind of discovering these songs like the robot, kind of just come down from the heavens. And it took a lot of help from friends and all the people that really made it all happen, and who are kind of big time. And we got to work with some great producers like Chris Wasner and JJ Blair, who engineered it, mixed it, and that was a real great part of the process as well. I played in a lot of funky little studios around Los Angeles. The whole thing was very organic, and you know, I listen back to it now, and it's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good.
At its core, is there a message or a statement you're hoping to make with this debut? Are there any particular themes you're excited to share with your audience?
As a message, I would like to quote from Spinal Tap: "Have a good time all the time." And shark sandwich, more like shit sandwich. So that's the message straight from Spinal Tap. And I think it's really important with music. It's just songs. So we're just trying to write cool songs that we get a kick out of a lot of times, because we're a very live-based band, that we can have, not that we necessarily do it in the studio. We try and keep things pretty condensed, though there's some epic jam songs on here as well. But we want songs that are vehicles for improvisation when we play them live. So, but in the end, it's just from a place and time and a bunch of songs by some good musicians. And we're just trying to kind of reflect that year that we made it, with some catchy hooks and some cool beats, and, you know, no overarching concept album here. Just something, hopefully people think it's cool.
Finally, as we wrap up, can you tell us what formats the album will be available in, and where fans can purchase or pre-order their copy?
The album will be coming out on vinyl from experiencevinyl.com. It's got a cool packaging with the green. When I was a kid, I got Clark Kent, who's made by Stuart Copeland from The Police, his album, and it was on this green vinyl, Dayglow green vinyl. I was a huge Police fan and still am. This is when I was like 14, and I always thought it'd be the coolest thing in the world to have a green vinyl LP. And so now I finally have one. So 40 years later, victory. Thank you, Stuart Copeland and Clark Kent. Check out Clark Kent. That's some vinyl to get your hands on. That's out there. I wish I still had my copy. So experiencevinyl.com on November 17th. And then it'll be on it'll be on all the streaming platforms that same day as well. And the album's called "And the Horse You Rode In On," and we are Warhorse, W4RHORS3. That way we get all the domain names. And it looks kind of like a robot serial number.
Chan, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing the journey behind the album. We are all looking forward to the release. I know I'm excited, waiting for my vinyl record, as you can tell, right? Love vinyl. Looking forward to the vinyl release from Experience Vinyl. Excited to see what lies ahead for Warhorse. Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. And more importantly, the vinyl has a whole graphic novel made by Andrea Witt about the robot's journey. It's like a 6-panel, full color, black and white and color graphic novel that came out so cool, and that's on the insert. So we put some time to make this vinyl pretty friggin' cool.